G'day folks, how you doing today? Today I've got a laptop on the bench that needs a port replaced. That port here, the barrel jack from the power adapter. So we need to pull this apart. And no, I don't use electric screwdrivers because we don't need them, do we? I've got some of the most advanced phalanges in the whole animal kingdom, and we want to use motorized screwdrivers. Anyway, let's get this apart. I feel like there's only a few screws here. It's already half apart over here. I think this is going to be a pretty straightforward job. Okay, there's one more screw here. There we are. Now this is just going to, oh my gosh, the whole thing is cracked here. Should we super glue it for them? I'll look at that in a second. All right, here we are. So this is a MSI, and it's got a bad barrel jack on it. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I've been told to replace it. So, should we pull it apart? We should probably, someone's obviously been into this before, because we have no screws on this, do we? I'm assuming it's just stuck in. Indeed. Stuck in with some double-sided tape. Let's get this out. Be careful not to pull on these too much. You can use the cabling as long as you grab all cables at once, and I feel like this is a little thing here. There we go. Okay, battery out. That's going to help us get into this a bit quicker. It's missing all of its screws. So someone's had this out already. But why doesn't it come out now? There's something holding it down over here. There's something holding it down over here, but what is it? What exactly is holding it down? It could be... Actually, I don't think there's anything holding it down. There's something here, though. Something in the middle here holding it down. Somewhere here. What do we think, people? What else is holding this in? Okay, well, there's a screw here. That's one. Okay, now I feel like there's a screw here somewhere, but it could just be this fan needs to come out. It should be a quick job, so I'm not going to worry about giving it a magnet or doing anything special in terms of, you know, organizing the parts. I'm going to work with it on the bench here. There we go. Okay, we're close. We are close. Where else do we have? Oh, there's one under the heat pipe. Of course there's one under the heat pipe. Of course there's a screw right under there. Can you guys see that? Right under there. Right in there, there's a screw. All right, so we're going to take these off. Means we'll probably have to repaste it. That's okay. We have some Duranaut here, some Thermal Grizzly Duranaut. That's what we use in the workshop. We don't use any of these cheap thermal pastes. We want your thermal paste to be fresh and stay fresh as long as possible. And I might just do that on this laptop anyway, just give it a bit of a refresh. Okay, that has freed that up. Then we've just got a fan connector. And there's our heatsink assembly. Here is our hidden screw, hiding nicely right under that. And there's a second hidden screw there. And then we should get out this motherboard. Should be able to get this motherboard out. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. Yes, we are out. All right, we just need to undo the display cable, undo the Wi-Fi here. Then we should be able to take this out. Close, almost. We just need to do this keyboard. That's going to come out like this. There are a few different types of switches on these. You've got the front loading ZIF socket, you've got the rear loading ZIF socket, and then you've got these piston style ZIF sockets where they push in and it's like a wedge that pushes in. All right, so that's going to get us to the connector, which is, where is it? Over here. Here we are. All right, we're going to be using some heat, so let's get this. And then we have 2 here, 3 there. So let's first of all clean this up, so we're not dealing with any dust acting as an insulator. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add a bit of leaded solder. So we're just going to go onto here. And we'll make sure we get leaded solder into that joint there. And then we'll do the same for this one. And then the same for this one. This would be an earth, I would say. Now these are soldered on the bottom, not by much. All we're doing is melting the existing solder and replacing it with leaded. So I'm not going to use any flux just yet. And in fact, they're going to come out quite easily, I think. Let's put a little bit of flux. Flux, 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 flux. This is M53 flux. And then we're going to just suck that big ball off. That big ball of solder there. Oops, try again. Good. We'll do the same here. And we'll do the same here. I really need to get that fume extractor going. All right, so we are pretty much ready. Take it out. We've got most of the solder out. I'm just going to wick the rest of that out there. Just going to use this one. This is my 3mm solder wick. And we'll just cut a bit off to work with. And we'll just wick that out. Get a bit of flux on there. And we'll just suck all that up. And then this one, you can see that that socket's loose already. So we've taken most of the solder off with that solder sucker. We're just taking the rest out with the wick. And then I think that's going to come out. Basically falling out the bottom. Is that the issue there, or is it one of these ones? I believe this is the issue. And I'm just going to get a bit more solder on that because we've got a dry tip. Shouldn't touch the soldering iron. It's a bit hot, just in case you didn't know. So I'm just taking it to the end of the bench here. I know it's probably off frame. Just trying to get the tip of the soldering iron in there to make sure that's cleared out. Because at the moment, it's being held in by that one little piece right there. Oh my god, you're so annoying. If it gets stuck, just resolder and rewick. Is this one out? Oh, well, there you go, there's that. And that's probably going to be enough just to drop it out like that. There we go. Got that out nice and clean. I don't see anything wrong with this socket. Oh yeah, the pin's loose in there. Do you see that? That pin is pretty loose in there. So we're just going to replace that with a fresh one, and we're going to clean up these pads. This is borderline here, but let's just suck out what we can, and we'll use the wick for the rest. Do a little flux. And let's suck all that up. Put a bit more in there. Good. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. Right. Here's our new one. We'll just check it's the new one to make sure the pin's not moving, which it's not, but man, they're not held in by much. And obviously this pin had broken out of the back here. So here's the issue here. The pin had snapped clean off the back there. Just like that. All right, let's place this back on. We'll sit it into its slot like this. Just got a bit of extra solder in there, so let's see if we can wick that out from this side. Yep. And then we go in like this. And then we are going to make sure she's sitting flat, which she's not at the moment. So let's just look at this leg. Which one was it? This one. Let's just whip that out. Okay, that should get it. Nice. All right, that should now let us put it in. Now this can only go one way, I believe, which is that way, because we can't go that way. Definitely not. All right, there we are. We're in. We're just going to use the old one to put extra bit of pressure on that to make sure that's seated all the way in. Then we're just going to dab a little bit of solder on each of those. Oh, we've got a bridge. We've got a bridge because we're not using enough flux. Being a little bit slack with that. We can get that bridge out nice and easily. Just with a bit of flux. And we're just going to do that. Very nice. And we're done. Bit of alcohol. Let's get our toothbrush. And we'll just clean that off nicely. We've still got a little bit of a bridge there that I'm not happy with, so I'm just going to go back over it. We're going to need some flux. Don't solder without flux, peeps. It will never result in anything fun for you. Just take a closer look at that. Sorry. Hi. My camera is not yet in the best position. My apologies for that, folks. The microscope's going to be in the way for a second. But we're just going to have a look to make sure that this is looking good and that we're not bridging. There is a scratch on the board there. I think we're going to do something about that. Okay, we need to clean that up. I think we'll have to put a bit of sorry, my computer's making noises there. I think we're going to have to put a bit of mask on this to fix this properly. Because it just looks like a mess. It's an interesting situation here. There appears to be a bit of metal in between. I can't tell if this is one piece or two. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to separate these best I can. And you guys might want to see that. Now let me get this back onto where we are. There. And yeah, it's a bit of a mess. I'm not really too happy about it, but we give it a clean up. There is a copper bridge there. Must be bridged. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to separate them just to be safe. So I'm going to grab this little bit of solder here. It definitely looks like it's connected, doesn't it? There are two pads, but one connection. I mean, it looks like there's continuity, so let's check it. There is. So is this the pin, and then this is the earth? Okay, that's all earth. That's the 19-volt pin. So I think it is one common pin. But just to be safe, what I'm going to do is just get a little bit of resin here. And we'll just do a tiny amount right in here. Scrub that. Let's just solder it. I mean, it seems pretty clear to me that it's a ground plane. Just being pedantic and separating them just in case, because they seem to. I mean, I don't know why they'd be two separate. Why would there be two separate connectors for ground? They're actually connected on the device. If you see that. Oh no, they're not. Let's check it. Are they connected on the shell? They are. All right, fine. We're just going to join them together because that's how they are. So let's just do that. I am worrying about something that probably doesn't need to be worried about, but you know, got to be thorough. I don't want to send this customer's machine back and it not work after doing a port replacement. All right, we happy with that? What do you say, folks? Where are we? There we are. Move out a little bit. I'm going to call that done. Alcohol to clean up. Sorry, folks. There you go. Now you can see me again. Brush. And we'll just mop up what's left. Beautiful and clean. Okay, let's call that done. Put it back together. Give it to the customer. All we asked for to do a port replacement. We've done the port replacement. We'll check with the customer to make sure that's all they needed, and then that's the job done. So thank you guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time. I'm going to put this back together. Give back to the customer. Cheers. Bye.